Ever heard of a map so bad it almost lost a war? This isn't a joke. We're talking about a single piece of paper that sent an entire army to the wrong place at the worst possible time. This is the story of the map that nearly destroyed the U.S. 36th Infantry Division. It's September 1943. World War II is raging. Allied forces are pushing into Italy, fresh from their victory in Sicily. The plan is called Operation Avalanche. The goal? A massive amphibious landing at Salerno, just south of Naples, to establish a beachhead and start the long, brutal fight up the Italian peninsula. Leading this charge is the U.S. 36th Infantry Division, a unit primarily made up of soldiers from the Texas National Guard. For many of these men, this will be their first taste of real combat. They're nervous, they're green, but they're ready. They trust their leaders, their training, and most importantly, their equipment. Little do they know, a critical piece of that equipment, their maps, is fundamentally flawed. The plan seems straightforward enough. The 36th Division is tasked with landing on a 9-mile stretch of beach, designated as red, green, yellow, and blue. Their main objective is to push inland, capture the high ground surrounding the plain, link up with the British forces landing to their north, and secure the beachhead. A key landmark on their maps is the Seal River, which cuts through the landing zone. The river is supposed to act as a clear boundary between the American and British sectors. Crossing it and controlling the area beyond is crucial. The maps they've been given are based on old Italian survey data, supplemented with some aerial reconnaissance. On paper, everything looks fine. The terrain seems manageable, the objectives clear, but paper can be deceiving. As the landing craft approach the shores of Salerno in the dead of night on September 9th, the first sign of trouble appears. The German resistance is far heavier than anticipated. Instead of a surprised light defense, the Texans are met with a hailstorm of machine gun fire, mortar, and artillery shells. The Luftwaffe bombs the beaches, and panzer tanks, hidden in the surrounding terrain, emerge to counterattack. The element of surprise is gone. The Germans knew they were coming. Field Marshal Albert Kesselring had correctly predicted the exact location and timing of the landing. Right from the start, the battle for Salerno is a desperate struggle for survival. The men of the 36th hit the sand and dig in, fighting for every inch of ground. Amidst this chaos, the flawed maps begin to wreak havoc. The first major issue is the Seal River itself. On the maps, it appears as a relatively narrow, straightforward obstacle. The reality is a wide, marshy, and treacherous waterway, with a current much stronger than anticipated. The surrounding ground, which looked like solid farmland on the maps, is actually a boggy, reclaimed marshland, crisscrossed with a complex network of irrigation canals and ditches not marked on their charts. Vehicles get stuck in the mud. Soldiers trying to cross the canals find themselves in water over their heads, weighed down by gear. Movement is slow, disorganized, and exhausting, but the worst was yet to come. A battalion from the 142nd Infantry Regiment is ordered to advance and seize a critical objective, Hill 424, a commanding height that overlooks the entire plain. Securing it would give the Americans a vital observation post and control of the battlefield. Following their maps, they push inland through the brutal German resistance. The fighting is house to house, field to field. They are making progress, but it's a meat grinder. After hours of intense combat and suffering heavy casualties, they finally reach what their maps tell them is Hill 424. They dig in, exhausted but triumphant, and report their objective as taken. The command headquarters receives the news with relief, but something is wrong. Reports from other units and aerial observers don't match up. The battalion on Hill 424 can't see what they should be able to see. The Germans are still pouring effective artillery fire onto the beaches from a nearby hill, a hill that should be under American control. Confusion reigns. For a critical period, Commanders are operating under the assumption that a key piece of high ground is secure. When it isn't, the terrible truth eventually dawns on them. The map was wrong. Not just a little bit wrong, but catastrophically wrong. The coordinates for Hill 424 were off. The battalion had fought and bled and died to capture the wrong hill. They were dug in on a completely different, less significant piece of high ground, a considerable distance away from their actual objective. The real Hill 424 remained firmly in German hands. And from its peak, German artillery spotters had a perfect, unobstructed view of the entire American beachhead. They could see every landing craft, every supply dump, every troop movement. And they were using this advantage to devastating effect. Shells rained down on the exposed American positions with terrifying accuracy. The beachhead, which was supposed to be a secure base of operations, became a death trap. Casualties mounted at an alarming rate. The entire landing was on the verge of collapse. The Germans, sensing weakness, launched a powerful counterattack, aiming to split the American and British forces and drive them back into the sea. For a few desperate days, it looked like they might succeed. General Mark Clark, the commander of the U.S. Fifth Army, even contemplated the unthinkable, evacuating the beachhead and abandoning the invasion. It was one of the darkest moments for the Allies in the Italian campaign. This single mapping error had created a domino effect of disaster. An entire battalion was misplaced, leaving a critical objective in enemy hands. This gave the Germans a perfect vantage point to inflict maximum damage. It led to strategic confusion, wasted resources, and staggering casualties. The plan had been compromised, not by a brilliant enemy maneuver, but by a simple, flawed piece of paper. The soldiers on the ground paid the price for this cartographic blunder. They were sent to fight and die for a piece of land that wasn't even their target, while the real target allowed the enemy to slaughter their comrades on the beaches below. So how was the situation saved? By sheer grit, determination, and naval firepower. The Allied command realized the gravity of the situation. They diverted every available resource to Salerno. Heavy bombers were called in to pound the German positions. Warships, including battleships, moved in close to the shore, their massive guns blasting the German tanks and artillery that were threatening to overrun the beachhead. The naval gunfire was so intense and accurate that it became a deciding factor, raking up the German counterattacks and giving the beleaguered infantry a fighting chance. On the ground, the soldiers of the 36th and other Allied units refused to break. They held their ground, fighting with incredible bravery against overwhelming odds. Eventually, after days of brutal combat, they managed to regroup, correct their positions, and finally capture the real Hill 424. With the high ground finally secured and the German counteroffensive blunted, the beachhead was saved. But the cost was immense. The battle for Salerno was one of the bloodiest of the Italian campaign. The 36th Infantry Division alone suffered thousands of casualties in its first major action of the war. While many factors contributed to the near disaster, the surprisingly strong German resistance, the difficult terrain, the flawed map stands out as a critical, unforced error that turned a difficult situation into a potential catastrophe. It serves as a stark reminder of a fundamental rule of warfare. Intelligence is everything. A soldier is only as good as the information he's given. In this case, the information was dangerously wrong. This story is often overlooked in the grand narrative of World War II. We remember the big victories and the famous generals. But we often forget the smaller, crucial details that could make or break an operation. The Salerno map error is a powerful lesson in the importance of accurate cartography and intelligence gathering. It highlights how something as seemingly simple as a map can hold the power of life and death for thousands of soldiers. It's a story of how a single flawed document sent an army to the wrong hill and almost changed the course of the war in Italy. It is a testament to the soldiers who had to overcome not just the enemy in front of them, but the failures of the very tools they were given to fight. Thank you for watching. If you found this piece of forgotten history interesting, please like this video and subscribe for more stories you won't find in the standard history books. See you next time.